Welcome back, everybody, to season 2, episode 3 of MMA Breez. Today, we have a BJJ practitioner, a teammate, a coach, an inspiration, and as of recently, a BJJ Black belt, Betty Broadhurst. How are you, Betty?
Hey, Breeze, I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Good, good. Glad to hear it. So, before we dive into the recent headlines, why don't you just give us a background of your BJJ journey? What led you to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and why did it intrigue you to start the journey of going for your black belt?
I think I was in my young 50s or early 50s, as you could say, and I was at that age where I'm divorced, was single. Both kids had already left. One was in college, one was last year of college, so the nest was empty. And I was living in Wilmington, North Carolina, Wrightsville Beach. So I was in the coastal area, and just I think the women my age and friends that I had, some of their hobbies were beginning to move toward things like playing bridge and maybe golf and tennis. And I did a little golf. I played golf. I had played golf when I was younger, and I had played tennis when I was younger. But it just didn't. I don't know. It just isn't. It didn't feel like it was something that I was really passionate about. Okay, I don't know what happened there. I'm sure I did something.
All gravy, all gravy. Actually, when I was talking to Michael Chiesa on one of my very first episodes, and I lost him for about a half hour, and surprisingly enough, he came back on, and we finished the conversation. He was like driving and all this stuff, so it's not the.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, I was in Wilmington, and a lot of my friends, and I'm a pharmacist by profession, and I worked at a hospital pharmacy. A lot of my friends, outside of work, it was a small group, but they tended to want to do more. I want to say sedentary hobbies like book club, wine tasting club, whatever, which was fine. I did it, but I didn't find like I was staying fit. I was walking, I did a little jogging, but with age, that starts, working on the heels and the knees. So I thought, I got to do something. And I saw an ad, and I think it was like when I was somewhere, maybe getting nails done or something, about a women's self-defense course. And I was just trying things to fill my time because, like I said, when you're that age and you have time off and you're alone, you're looking for things to do. I said, well, I might meet some different kind of women, and have some common interests. So it was at a jujitsu school, which it was at a church. They had used their community room because it was large, and they had brought in mats, and a couple of the black belts and brown belts were actually the instructors, and they were actually from Evolution MMA. And the owner and instructor was Jeremy Owens, who passed away like a year ago, but he was from Wrightsville Beach, was a head lifeguard down there, and really motivational and talked a lot. He had actually trained in Hilo, Hawaii. He had gone to University of Hawaii at Hilo and took jujitsu and got his black belt there under Shiruto Verissimo, which was a Nova Unya school. So he opened an affiliate when he moved back home after he finished college. So found out a little bit about the history, went online, and they taught you the basic moves like, the bear hug, the trap and roll, the basic things like that. And I mean, I thought it was fun. We all had women partners. We all wore sweatpants and sweatshirts, but some of the men wore gis. And I thought that was kind of intriguing because I had always liked to watch karate in the Olympics, or judo. I think judo is one that's in the Olympics. I had always watched judo, and I thought, well, that's kind of intriguing. So I went online. They gave you a card, because of course it's a marketing thing to stimulate business for jiu-jitsu schools. And so I looked it up, read a little bit about jujitsu. Sounded like it was something that I could do because it wasn't anything you got hit in the face or kicked in the face. And I wanted to do something that my whole body would be involved. So I called the school, made an appointment, met with one of the instructors, and in place of just joining the group, and I told him I kind of wanted to do it for an activity, but I also thought it would be good for self-defense because I actually he had never really, I guess, thought about it. But as I was aging and going into that, in your 50s, you realize you can't run as fast as you used to. And the things you see on these TV tutorials, like gouge their eyes, kick them in the groin, that doesn't work. And I had a couple of friends that had handguns that carried them in their purse. But I thought, that's so unrealistic. I mean, if somebody grabs you, I mean, yeah, you're going to really take time to open your purse. So, I mean, the cognitive part of me knew that wasn't the answer, and this kind of intrigued me because I could get exercise and I could learn how to defend myself. And I had I think after going through a divorce and also your children being grown, and when they're going through the teenagers and off to college, they develop their own social circles and they check in with mom, but they don't really check in like, hey, how you really doing kind of thing. So I thought, well, this might be a good thing for me, as far as helping build my self-esteem back up. And so we decided, because I was a little shy about going into a group, that I would take a private lesson on Saturdays or either twice a week, depending on the instructor's schedule. And it'd be for an hour, and I would just learn basic fundamentals. And at the end of those 8 weeks, I could choose whether I wanted to go to the group or not, or maybe not come back or whatever. So we did that. But after the first or second lesson, he would bring in someone from the Saturday, it was on Saturdays, the Saturday class. He would ask them to come early to be my uke. So I got to meet a person, and he would ask a different person each week. So by the end of the 8 weeks, I had probably met 10 or 12 different people, because sometimes I would come on the Wednesday afternoon before they had Wednesday night class. And so all of a sudden I had this friendship, or I had developed a bond with 10 to 12 people that I didn't know before. Some of them were men, most of them were men, one was a female. And as far as like worrying about the touch or closeness, I don't think that's something that's ever really bothered me, because I think, I had a younger brother that played football. We would always play flag football with all his friends in the yard. And so, and I don't know, I guess it didn't bother me. And I had never had a history of any problems or anything where it would like a PTSD kind of thing. So as far as like doing the trap and roll and things like that, the positions didn't bother me at all. So after doing this, I said, yeah, this is good. Now I know some of the folks in here. They said, yeah, you need to come to group, So I went to group. There were 2 other women, and they were both students at UNC Wilmington. So they were in their like young 20s. And the rest were young men. I think the oldest man might have been 35, 36, but they were very cordial, inviting, were very, made me feel very part of the group. And because the fact that it was at the beach, it was sort of a beach. The culture there was a little bit kind of surfing, had a beach community kind of thing, because surfing and jujitsu, and it was actually on the beach. It was maybe 3 blocks away from the water. So a lot of times to cool off, the guys after class would run up to the beach in their trunks and just jump in to cool off, or there was a bar down, it was an upstairs gym. There was a bar below, and everybody would go down and get a beer. So before long, I was kind of in this culture. Now, I wasn't really going and jumping in the water with everybody, but I would walk down there with some of the girls, and before long, I found myself being a member of this community. So that was my first, and it was very supportive, and it was very good. It helped my self-confidence, and it also, I want to say, you can say, kept me young, but I think being around younger people was really good. A lot of these people were the same age or age culture with my children, and a lot of the things, music they were listening to, things they were doing, really added a lot to me and my bond with my children, because there were things then I had in common. I could talk about, like, yeah, I know who 50 Cent is, and, you know, stuff like that, instead of things that I didn't know about. So that was a good start, and it was a good school, and I got my blue belt there.
Okay.
I trained there for about 3.5 to 4 years. And so that was my early beginnings.
That's awesome. And that raises such a good question, because I know people that train jujitsu and they're in those earlier stages where they have a blue belt, or maybe they've been training for 6 months and they're still a white belt, but they have to relocate, maybe by, profession or whatever.
Yeah.
Can you tell some of the young practitioners any words of wisdom of transitioning to another school, and what to not worry about? Because I know they worry about their belts and that whole process. Can you just touch on transitioning for us, because you have that experience?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that I don't think you ever think about until it happens to you. And then, depending on where you have to relocate to. And my relocation was secondary. My mother lives in the northern part of North Carolina, and unfortunately she developed breast cancer. And I have a brother that was unable to be close. And I had the type of job that it was not hard for me to find another job or to relocate. And so I started looking for jobs in her area, and I found a job at a hospital about 20 miles from where she lived. And so, because it was just me, there was no reason I couldn't relocate and be there with her, because we were going to have to go through the breast removal, chemo, radiation, the whole bit. And being her only daughter, it was imperative that I be there. And so, found a job, relocated, and so then the next thing was the jujitsu. Well, it ends up that because the area she lived in is probably about 15 miles from the Virginia border. It's a place called Halifax County. It's north of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, which is probably 50 miles east of Raleigh, North Carolina. So when I started looking for jujitsu schools, I mean, it's not a big town. She's in a little rural area. There were no jujitsu schools. I mean, you'd look up martial arts, it'd be karate or MMA, these things, but nothing. So I drove when I found out that, I can't lose. I said, okay, I'm gonna go one night a week to the closest place I could find. Well, it was Greenville, North Carolina. And there was a school there that happened to also be a Nova Union affiliate. And so I thought, okay, that's great. I'll go there. It was East Carolina Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I went there, but the drive was like an hour and 45 minutes. And I went for one class, stayed, and it was just to go visit, and then trained and came back. I did that the second week, and I said, God, this is not going to work, So I posted on Facebook, does anyone know of any areas that are closer to Rocky Mount, Roanoke Rapids, where I can train jujitsu? And someone said, hey, did you know that there's a Gustavo Machado affiliate in Rocky Mount, North Carolina? It's very small, but it's there. So I said no. So I looked it up, I Googled it, found it. Very small local school, and it was 35 miles from my mother's home. So it was a 40-minute drive. So I called, made an appointment, went over, got in there, and it all men. There was not one single woman. And I tried to tell them that I was a blue belt, that I had trained, and they knew a couple of the people I had trained with. And they also were very nice, receptive, could not have been more welcoming, but they had never had a woman in the class. So it was very different for them also, because it was a rural area of North Carolina. And it was not, this is probably, 2013, 14, 15, 2014 or 15, I think. Because the first year I ever did masters was 2015. And so after meeting with them, they saw that I did know some basic skills, but the mean age, I mean, not age, the age was probably in the 30s. There was a couple of young people, maybe high school guys that were wrestlers that came by, but it was probably a class of maybe 15 to 20 people. Wasn't a very large school at all. And they only met at night because the gentleman that was the instructor worked a day job. I mean, he had his real job, as some people call it, his day job. But then he ran the little academy at night. And it was a small academy, but it had good jujitsu. He was a legitimate black belt, and he had driven up to Norfolk, Virginia over weekends and weeks to get his black belt under Gustavo Machado. And then he opened an affiliate school in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And his name was Eric Griffin. So I chose to, get on the mats and show them what I could do. But the funny thing is that the weight of everyone there, and I don't know if it's because people in Eastern North Carolina eat differently, and they all, drove pickup trucks, and they were just what I would call good old boys, very nice, good old boys. They would say, "Yes, ma'am," to me. It was really funny. Very different culture than where I had come from, the surfing jiu-jitsu guys. But they probably, the median weight was 200, 215. I mean, everybody was big. And they were homegrown, like, kind of, lifted bales of hay or whatever that got their muscles. Nobody worked out in the gym. Smallest guy was like 175, but jumped right in, started training with them. And I found a lot of the things they did were very different from what I had learned. A lot of half guard, deep half, pressure passing. Yeah. And I mean, they were, I probably weighed at that time maybe 145 to 150 pounds. And so it was difficult, but they really were helpful and I think they wanted me to succeed, and they wanted to have a woman, and they saw it as an opportunity to open some doors for their own business. So they had a very large kids program, luckily, and a lot of the mothers were there. And I remember talking to one of the guys that I trained with a lot that was about my size. He was 175 pounds or 180, but I trained with him a lot. His wife was always there at the kids class, and I talked to her, and she says, "No, I don't want to do it." I said, "Please do. It would be so wonderful. You've got both your daughters are in the kids program, and I need you." And so sure enough, and we had gone out and had dinner together, with her. I would go eat dinner with she and her husband. So we had become good friends. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." And she got a gi and started training, and became like one of my dearest friends, training partners. And then later on, probably 6 months down the road, another mother joined that had been on the sides watching her daughter. So it was sort of an evolution of these women. And I had gone in there as a blue belt, I kind of had to relearn, because, everybody has their school of thought and how they teach. And they were very laid back in a different way, but they wanted to see results. I mean, they wanted to make sure you could pass guard, that you could sweep, you could do certain things. They had like a belt, kind of an informal belt test. So before they did stripes. So after 3.5 years at blue belt there, and I was already a blue belt a year. So I was actually a blue belt for 4.5 years. They promoted me to purple.
Wow.
So, it was a different transition, because I learned a lot of things. Like the guys that were the surfing crew, they were all into lasso and spider guard and the long leggy, kind of people. And then I go to this place where everybody smash passes. But, it was good, because I got the both of two worlds. And I think the nice thing about it is, with age, it became imperative to me that I was losing mobility with age, with my hips. So the things I had learned at the first school, such as the spider guard and lasso, and I couldn't do as easily. I mean, I could just, my hips just wouldn't allow it. But as far as like double unders, pressure passing, over and under, half guard, deep half, I found that even though they were big people, it kind of fit with my mobility. And that might be why heavy people aren't as mobile. And even though they may, not hurt from age or have mobility issues from age, they're doing it because of their size. They don't have that speed and flexibility. So I think for a transition, it just happened to be beneficial to me going from one style to the other, because I really think had I continued at the first gym that I would have been very limited in my progression in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So 2015, I decided I wanted to do masters. I was in a lot of the Facebook groups, and I started competing at like US Grappling, New Breed, Naga, anything that they could find to do, I would do. And there was never anyone my age. And so I was always competing against young women that were my age. And I'm really glad at this point that I did it, even though I lost many, many matches. But they had to work for it. I mean, I didn't give it to them. I mean, they had to work to submit me. I knew enough about jiu-jitsu, and I was strong enough that if I got side control on them, I actually, they had to work to get out of it. Or if they thought that they could guillotine me, I was able to escape. Or I had a really mean darce, and if I could get myself in the right position. So it was fun to be able to use my techniques, and I tried to do with techniques because I couldn't match their speed and flexibility. But I was also determined that if I showed up for them, they would have a match. There was nothing more disappointing, I think, as an older person, as I went to World Masters in 2015, to want to go to something and there's no opponent your age or your weight. And to have to drop down and fight someone 15 years. I mean, I'm talking at the big IBJJF levels. I'm not even talking Naga or anything. So I thought, for me, I'm going to show up and I'm going to go to these local tournaments and I'm going to be a purple belt. And I don't care if they only have adult. I'm going to be there for somebody because I want them to have that match. Because if I'm not there, they don't have a match, and it only helps them. And it only helped me too. I could see what I did wrong. I could see what they did right. They could see, like, one girl that was a brown belt, we were in no-gi and I was purple. And she was a mutual friend of mine, but from a different school. We had a no-gi match and I got a really good Kimura grip lock on her. And she sat there for a second and just paused, because I think all of a sudden what she assumed was going to be a quick match, she had to figure out, how am I going to get out of this? Because I had her legs trapped and I had a Kimura grip on her. And so it was like a little bit of a chess thing for her. So like I said, I didn't win a lot, but I did give them a match, and I gave as much of myself as I could. And it felt good, that because I wanted women to be able, not just women, but everyone, even older men, to see that it's okay, to step out here, because just because you don't have someone, you might lose, but you're really gaining. Because I saw competition as a way, I'm really competing with myself, because I'm trying to find the holes in my game, go back and look at the videos. If I could get somebody to video it on my phone.
Yeah. And how else do you find the holes in your game unless you're putting yourself in those positions? I know as a wrestler who transitioned after my wrestling career into jiu-jitsu,
right.
It's so easy to just keep using what the bread and butter, but that's not how you're going to grow, right? How you grow is practicing the new techniques and putting yourself against different looks. So one of my questions to you was going to be, who inspired you along the way? But something I think I'm acknowledging now is you've inspired many people along your way with the gyms that you've gone to and the competitions that you showed up. Was there ever a time that you felt like maybe a plateau, or that, a little monotonous with your jiu-jitsu routine, or has it always just been something so passionate within you?
It was always so passionate. And there was never a day that I didn't look forward to go training. And there were days when and remember, I was commuting 35 miles at night for a 7 o'clock class. Class ended at 8:30. Then we'd roll, help clean up the mat, leave at 9 or 9:30, get back to my mom's at 10:30 or 11, and then get up and go to work the next day. But I did it 4 days a week, 4 nights a week, and then on Saturdays because I wanted it so bad. And I was promoted to purple belt. And then my mother, after 5 years there, things progressed with my mother. Wonderful outcome, cancer free after 5 years. My daughter relocated to live near my mom because there was a nursing school. She had a college degree, but it was in something that you couldn't get a job in, to be honest. So she said, you know, Mom, what I think I'm going to do is come live near Grandma and let you take a break. And I can enroll in this community college, go to nursing school, which is what she has been doing. And so she had relocated. She had relocated to California and went to school out there on the West Coast, and moved back after getting a degree in, you know, in something like marketing and interior design. But in California, you know, the cost of living, et cetera, you know, you can't make minimum unless you live in the Tech Valley or you own a lot of things.
Right.
She was living in a 2-room house with 4 girls, you know, post college, and her father and I were still supplementing. And so after 3 years of that post college, she said, I got to come back to North Carolina. And then she chose to come back and help me with Mom, and then to look for something she could do as a skill. And nursing, of course, as we all well know, you know, is still so in demand. So she decided to look around, find a nursing school near my mom. So with that, I said, great, because I've been here 5 years. Now it's time for me. And I had a lot of friends in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, and I was a purple belt, and there were no other women that were purple belts at the school. And I really wanted to go where everybody was like a blue belt, the women that had joined, you know, from the mothers group. I wanted to go to a school where I could train and advance myself, because I was beginning to see this as like, I went to pharmacy school for 5.5 years. I went back and got my master's degree while I had 2 kids in diapers. So it was almost like that was an 8-year journey for me. And I've always been very long-term goal oriented. So I think jujitsu kind of felt in like that. I was always trying to teach my children about, you cannot always want instant gratification. There's something about a journey where kids or people younger than me are looking for instant gratification. They want to feel good right that minute. But I think because of my history with going through college and master's degree, it was a goal, but I had to take it in little steps. Like I knew that I had to, you know, get through organic chemistry, get through all those things until I could get in pharmacy school. And then before I could be a pharmacist, I had to pass the licensure board. So I think I was used to the progression being steady and slow, but you're going to still get there. So I was aware that I needed to be in a surroundings that would lift me up, because sometimes you feel like you've learned, not that you've learned all you can, but that you also need the exposure of different body types. And I needed that edge in competition to carry me of being around other women. And in this rural area, there just weren't but the 2 or 3 people that were under me. And I was the one usually helping them because I was at higher rank. So I chose to relocate, found a great job. And by now I'm like 59, 60, 61 maybe. Found a job at a hospital, which was actually in Norfolk, and it was it's a trauma center. And they had a job where you could work 7 days and be off 7. And I thought, oh, this is awesome. That's where I can travel and train, because now I was starting to travel. My company, Roll Forever, which is a whole separate issue, was starting to sponsor athletes at a higher level. So I was very involved in trying to attend their events as a spectator, trying to fly and go to Fight to Win. I went to a couple of EBIs, flew up to TriStar and trained in Montreal. So I was like wanting this time off that I could, and I was at a great point in my life. I mean, I had no finances. I mean, I was living the best life because I was like progressing in my jiu-jitsu and wanted time off to travel and train, but yet I still wanted to work and continue my profession. So I relocated and joined an Heiress affiliate, which was Diego Bispo's Academy in Virginia Beach, which was very well known. And I knew Diego from years ago, seeing him on the competition circuit. And he is a world champion, gi and no gi, as an adult and as a master's. He's a master too now. And so relocating, again, transitioning into a different gym, and the number of women there was phenomenal. The guests he had like guest instructors to come in, and he's Brazilian. So he also had a lot of contacts that would come in on their temporary visas, come in and train before they would go back to Brazil. So women and men, I mean, he had people that would come stay a couple of weeks, like Talita Alencar, people that have won major titles. So it was really very rewarding, and I really found a home there. And being the age I am, they again welcomed me. And by this time, people were starting to know me, I think, in the local scene, and also because of Roll Forever, my company, and the athletes that I was sponsoring. It was getting to be more like people knew who I was. And when I would go to like local competitions or go with my teammates, people would come up and introduce themselves and say, my husband's 40 and he quit at a blue belt and now he wants to go back because he's seeing you competing. So, all that does is just fuel you. It just fuels you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
okay.
So you touched on Roll Forever, your company, your
right.
organization. When did you start that? What inspired that? And tell us a little bit about the sponsors that you have and what you look for when sponsoring an athlete.
Okay. When I was in North Carolina, being in the rural community that I was, not when I was in Wilmington, but in the Rocky Mount, Eastern North Carolina, one of the things that I found was that there was never an opportunity for people that I trained with to train with a high level person. They would have to either pack up and travel and go up to New York to Henzo's, or either fly to San Diego. I mean, if you really wanted, this is before Austin blew up, as after COVID, and all this is pre-COVID. But I thought, wouldn't it be a cool thing? And just by chance, and this is just one of these weird situations. I was friends, and before he was famous or anyone knew his name, with Gordan Ryan's mother. And Gordan Ryan is a really famous grap. For anyone that doesn't know who Gordan Ryan is, he's like probably the greatest grappler of all time. He's won ADCC twice, and he's just phenomenal. But I was competing at like a Naga, New Breed, something in Northern Virginia or Maryland, and this lady was sitting there in the stands when I was waiting and sitting there in my gi, and she said, "Oh, you compete? You're like almost my age." And I said, "Yeah, I do compete." She said, "Yeah, my two sons compete, the two little ones out there. There was a purple belt, and then there was a kid in like a yellow and white belt, and it was Nikki Ryan and Gordan Ryan, and they were in gis competing." And she was driving them all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, competing. Well, we got to be friends, Facebook friends, chatted back and forth, and then Gordan started training at Henzo's and was a brown belt. And I think right before he got his black belt, I had talked to him about, why don't you come down and do a seminar in Rocky Mount? We would love to have you, and I'll put it together, and it will really give people an opportunity to see some high level grad. Well, some people had never heard of him. They'd heard of Gary Tonin, but they had never heard of Gordan. Well, Gordan got it. So I booked it like 3 or 4 months in advance. His mom was going to come down and visit. You know, we're going to do the whole thing. And we ended up, he got his black belt before. Then there was an EBI scheduled, and Gary Tonin got injured. So Gordan stepped in for the absolute. No one had ever heard of him. He had just gotten his black belt 2 weeks before. He steps in, he wins the EBI. And all of a sudden, this is who I have a seminar with coming up, and in this little bitty town called Rocky Mount, North Carolina. So people came, you know, the tickets were, luckily I booked him before he was famous, because I got a good I promised him X amount to show up. So from then on, I thought this was wonderful, because number one, all the people that showed up and came to the seminar learned some excellent skills from a world-class grappler. Number two, the money made from it helped finance, because, you know, these people that are professionals, just like professional wrestlers, they spend so much on nutrition and training and travel. They can't work a side job. I mean, if you're really going to be the best at what you have to do, I mean, that has to be your job. And so they need income. And how do they get income? If they don't have a big sponsor, you know, like someone in MMA, you know, like a Nike sponsor, they have to get out and teach seminars, private lessons. They have to hustle between training sessions. And so I thought, well, gosh, I helped him. I can do this again. So the next thing I did, I brought Jeff Glover down, and I did it at another gym. And I would get friends of mine in the area that had larger gyms to let me use their gym, and they could take photos as a courtesy and advertise it. So then I said, well, I'm going to pick the name Roll Forever, because it means that this is, you know, you can roll forever regardless of your gender and your ethnicity or your age, or, you know, everyone from children to 70 to geriatric, male, female, binary, you know, Muslim, Christian, it doesn't matter, atheist, because on the mat, you just have an opponent. It's just you and them. And that's how it should be. And so that's why we kind of adopted the thing, Roll Forever. And I said, okay, I'm going to call it Roll Forever Seminars, or Roll Forever. It's going to be seminar management. So then I brought in Jeff Glover. And then we had a event in Durham, North Carolina. And I put together a seminar where I had Ethan Krellinston and Nikki Ryan came down. And then Bernardo Feria. Then it started getting bigger. And Bernardo Feria came down, and I had it. And then people from all over started coming, because what happened is I was bringing top level athletes into North Carolina and Virginia. And many of my friends that were gym owners were loaning me their large gyms so that I could have these seminars. And it kept going. I had JT Torres, Bernardo Feria did actually video of him talking about Roll Forever and how I had started it, and naming some of the people that had come. So it grew to where every year people go, who are you going to have, Betty? Well, you know, I ended up having Gordan to come back. And this is after he won ADCC, and it was packed. And what was good about it is the athletes all made a lot of money, and the people that drove from hours around, you know, for 3 to 4 hour radius, got a lot of good skills without having to pack up and fly to New York or go train and pay the fees to train Henzo. So, and he would roll with everybody. And then JT Torres came down. I had him to come. And then I think the last one we did, I had Ethan Krellinston did a tour back in April. It was kind of during COVID, but we did a 3-day tour. He did Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy. And then we went to Raleigh to carry Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then we went into Virginia and did an Upstream BJJ, which is a Ryan Hall affiliate. And then he flew back. So we did like bam, 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 3 days in a row. Mm-hmm. So then COVID has kind of come and gone, but that sort of was the impetus that started. And that's over maybe a 3-year period. So from the money, after I paid the athletes, the money that I used, I said, I need to start sponsoring athletes that are up and coming that really, need to go. So the first athlete that I was really serious about sponsoring was a guy at TriStar. He would come down and train at Henzo's a lot. He was friends with Gary Tonin and Gordan, but he didn't have a lot of money. And in Montreal and Quebec, they don't have a lot of opportunities. Jiu-jitsu tournaments are not allowed for some reason. It's in that particular province. I wouldn't, for us, the hobby of all people, is teaching like the biggest MMA gym. Everybody goes there to train, but you can't have jiu-jitsu tournaments there. They have to go to the US to compete. And he got an opportunity, and he knew Nikki, Ryan, and Gordan, and he would come and stay with Nikki's mother, who was my friend. She said, he's a good guy, Betty. Why don't you help him? So I said, okay. So I contacted him. We had met once training, and I said, I really want to help you out. So by helping him out, I said, I'm going to give you some gear, but I also want to help pay for your seminar, your competition enrollment fee, but help you with travel and hotel, because that's the biggest cost. And that way the athlete doesn't have to work 3 jobs trying to figure out a way, if they're not high enough to draw people into their seminars to make big money, at least it's a way that it can get them to the competition. So I was using the money I was making from the seminars to help finance other athletes after I paid the big name athletes. So then we started making gear, and 100% of the profit after I paid the cost. And it's just basic gear. It's like rash guard shorts, hoodie, sweatpants, and that's it. And from there, I started selling the gear, and then anything over the cost goes 100% to financing these athletes. So right now, some of the athletes that I help out are, his name is Pierre Olivier Leclerc, or P.O. Leclerc, and he did very well in the ADCC East Coast trials. He went to the final 6. I think he lost to William Tackett by decision, which is a really high ranking person in jiu-jitsu. Also Oliver Taza, who's very well known. I've helped him, and Ethan Krellinston, and I'm actually their visa sponsor. I was able to use Roll Forever. The company is actually an LLC, and so they are like employed as representatives. They wear the gear and whatever when they compete, and that way I was able to petition the immigration board and get them where they can come to the US and live full time. If not, they have to go back after X number of days.
And so
when they're going back to Canada.
That's incredible. And so for the folks that want to get involved and help you and these athletes for this cause, can we go buy gear or donate on your page? Is there a way for us to do so?
Oh, absolutely. The best thing to do, and the prices are very reasonable. And I'm going to tell you, I'm getting ready to have a special, so don't buy anything right now. But it's just a basic rash guard, and it's a basic same emblem, solid black. I'm have someone designing ranked rash guards for this coming spring, just because there's been a lot of requests for ranked.
Yeah.
But everything's solid black. It's very clean looking. You can wear it anywhere, but 100% of the profit goes to fund these athletes and their endeavors. So, and I will give you the website. It's actually in my bio on Instagram, and Roll Forever is on Instagram, and it's in the bio there, and you can see all the athletes there. They're actually on the website, and the shop is on the website. And if your gym wants to book a seminar, you can book it on the website.
Oh, fantastic.
And yeah, so if there's an athlete, like if you wanted Oliver Taza to come in and teach a leg lock seminar at your gym, you would just email, and there's this thing for seminar management. And that's a turnkey thing. I take care of the date, the ticket. I have an Eventbrite account. I take care of the ticket sales. I fly them in there, do the thing, set the admission price. And so it does all of that. Yeah.
That's incredible. And So we'll definitely attach that. I'll put that up here in the video so people
Oh
can
yeah.
click. And also, lastly, before I let you go, I wanted to just touch on the big headline, right? The black belt. That's the one that made waves on the internet. We saw you posing
Yeah.
with Joe Rogan. We saw all worldwide BJJ community praise you.
Unbelievable.
How was that experience of not only just getting your black belt, but having the whole world behind you celebrating the achievement?
I have never been so, I mean, overwhelmed. Just I can't. You hear about people on Instagram going, "Hey, my video went viral," but until you experience that kind of thing, But I had so many people. My really dear friend Felicia O, who lives in California, and she was my mentor. She's a black belt under Jean-Jacques Machado, and she has been by my side since I competed at Masters in 2015, pushing me and encouraging me. She was the sixth non-Brazilian female black belt in the world.
Wow.
They're called the Dirty Dozen. There's 12 men and there's 12 women that were the first non-Brazilians that got black belts, and she got hers. She was the sixth. She's American. She's Asian, but she's an American Asian. And so she was my mentor and friend, and she happened to be there watching and got the video that kind of was shown on Instagram a lot. But I've known Tom DeBlas because he's from Jersey, and when I would go up and visit Trish Ryan, Gordan and Nikki's mom, I would go to his gym and train also because he had a lot of really good women there. And Tom was in North Carolina for a seminar in Charlotte, and I actually drove and we rolled together, and he posted that video when I was a purple belt, I think, no gi, rolling with him, and it went viral, and I got all these messages back then, and he was something like 57-year-old woman rolls, can still roll, which was kind of cool. Yeah. But it was nothing like this. And I mean, and the thing that was, I think, that people don't realize for me, I had started doing IBJJF Masters Worlds in 2015 as a blue belt, and then went back as a purple belt, and then competed. I missed the brown belt year because of COVID. I didn't compete, and then this was my second year as brown belt going out there this year. And this was the first time since 2015 I had ever had a match with someone my age.
Wow.
All my matches, I had dropped down to like 10, 15 years younger. One year I dropped 10 years younger, but she was ultra heavy, and she weighed 275 pounds.
Wow.
And I weighed in at 155. And so I signed up as an ultra heavy just so I could have a match. And, the chances of me were, but I did it. And because I wanted, and I got a silver medal. I lost the match, but I got a silver medal and I competed. And there were other women that were lighter weight, but none of them would do absolute because they were afraid of her. Well, I wasn't afraid. I mean, I've never been afraid in jiu-jitsu because you can tap. You can tap. And so that's why I've always said I'm not afraid. So we did absolute. And so I had 2 silvers, and she won, gold. And it was so funny, our picture on the podium, because it's like she's really large, 6'2" or whatever. She's not like Gabby Garcia. She's much bigger in that she's taller and has a different. She's more. I don't think she's as muscular as Gabby is. Anyway, make a long story short, this was my first year this year that I had someone my age, and it was a lady from New York, from one of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu academies, that has always been very active. We've been friends through a lot of the chat rooms and the women's groups on Facebook that support Masters women. And so she goes to a lot of the camps. She goes to lots of seminars, and we've met before. And she decided that she really did want to compete. She had the competition anxiety thing, but she had never competed. So this was her first. And I was so grateful to her because it meant I had someone my age. So number one, I was already so excited, regardless of the outcome, that I had a match in my age. I did not have to go against someone 15 years younger than me. So we had the match. It's just the two of us. So, there's no one else in our division. And I remember getting a little bit nervous before, but I thought, if I'm nervous, I know she's got to be nervous too. And we had the match, and masters matches are limited to 5 minutes. They don't let you go, longer than that. And I remember, wanting to win so badly. I wanted to be a world champion because I had come so close. I'd been a silver medalist, but never had gotten gold. And I remember getting her, and finally I said, I'm going to win this match. And I was able to get inside control, and I was able to do I had a Kimura lock, and I was able to do like the paintbrush or whatever they call it, Americana. Mm-hmm. And she tapped at 2.5 minutes. And I remember just sitting up and the smile on my face. There was no better feeling than knowing, number one, I won, and number two, I had won by submission. And I look over there, my teammates, their hands are all in the air. So I was on cloud 9. I mean, I had won by submission, and it was like nothing could get any better than this day. And so we go to the podium. We're at the podium. I'm so happy. I keep thanking my opponent, because without her, this wouldn't have happened. We step up there, we get the gold medal. My friend Felicia's videoing and people are clapping. And then I had gotten gold in my division, in my weight. We were different weights. We were slightly different weights. So that's why it was double gold. So that was the absolute match that I had. So we're on the podium, and all of a sudden, Diego, my coach, comes out and does this little dance. I thought he was just coming to hug me, and he pulls out the black belt. On the biggest podium, a world's event, a world match on the biggest podium, I've just won gold, and I'm promoted to black belt. It was like it's like you're like looking at it, but like you're looking at yourself, but you're not like you're seeing it, but you're not really like registering. And I just remember the wave of happiness and shock. It was the shock factor, and just the tears of joy, because it was like, this is 10 years that I have just been, just patiently coming along, padding along. I didn't expect my black belt. I didn't really. I wanted one, but I never was the kind that would go, how long is it going to take me to get a black belt? Figuring that because I'm older and I have to use a lot of adaptations to my jiu-jitsu, I figured, it's probably going to take me a good 15 years. Hopefully I'll get it before the rest home. But, either way. But so incredible. I was really excited, and people were crying that were watching it. And I think, it was in a time of all this bullshit that we've had from COVIDs and lockdowns. I think it was a moment that brought everybody together, because it was a happy, joyous something we could all celebrate. And I think it touched everyone in some way or another, because they could say, in all this whatever we've been through, there is so much good in the world. And from that, I didn't think anything of it. And then Tom DeBlas, I think, posted it, and Jiu-Jitsu Times. And then like the second day in, I was still out there in Vegas. Somebody said, I got called like in the middle of the night. Said, Betty, Joe Rogan just posted it, and he's like, we all know what his reach is. And from then on, I mean, the private messages I told people were people I didn't know, people that commended me, and I tried to respond. I really would sit down for hours and try to respond to everyone, thanking them. But I got messages from people like Halle Berry, who had just done a martial arts movie. She goes, saw this on Joe Rogan, really proud of you for women, people like Jewel that was a recent guest on Joe Rogan. So Joe's reach is really big, and just a lot of it reached a lot of people. And the people that it meant the most to me that it reached was people that said, I quit it, blue belt. I'm 40 now, but now I really had hung it up, but I'm not going to hang it up. I'm going to go back. And I probably had 10, 15 messages from people saying they've gone back, that if I can do it. And I just say, you can no longer say you're too old. You can't look at, I said, because I'm older, and you can't say, there's no one out there, because as we all age, we're all going to be a master. So there's always going to be an opponent for you. So don't let that deter you either. So it was very moving, and it made me really feel like everything that I've done or tried to do. Sometimes you say, it's better to give, and I do try to give of myself. I've been very fortunate in that I had a good job, and I was able to, take jujitsu. A lot of people have to make choices between, paying seminar dues or seminar fees, or, membership fees versus groceries, and, they have lost jobs, and, especially during COVID. And I've been very blessed that I had a wonderful job that financed a lot. I was able to do a lot of these things, and I wanted always to be able to help others or encourage others, so that we would have a bigger community. And because it helped me, and when people say it saved your life, it brought a step into my life when I told someone, when people are starting to plan what rest home they're going to go live in, or what assisted living home is near their kids, I ain't having none of that. I'm just looking for the next tournament, So it gave me, that kind of like attitude. It's not that I'm not going to have to do that, but it's kind of like when my peers or people my own age are thinking about those kind of things as priority, I haven't had to do that. And I promise you, it keeps you young. It keeps you around young people, and it allows you hear about, Instagram influencers. I kind of think of myself like, I want to be a good ambassador for jiu-jitsu and to be a positive influence. And I think that kind of culminated it all when it went viral. I think when people look behind the scenes at what else Betty Broadhurst had done, it kind of brought it out to light. And because I have been doing a lot of things along the whole path, as opposed to just that one moment.
And please continue to do so, Betty, because I think, like you said, not just the people around you in the competition that felt the chill of your accolades, but it's been worldwide. We've all felt it, and what you're doing, what beyond your own journey, helping the others around you, is just a beautiful thing, and such a young sport in North America. So please continue to do that. I appreciate your time so much today, Betty. Really, I could do this all day with you, and I hope we actually can connect in the future. So we'll plan for that if you're down for that. And let me know if you're ever back here in Charlotte. Let's do something, link up, and keep doing what you're doing. We're so inspired.
Oh, yeah, I'm planning to go to Charlotte at some point. I was in touch with my contact there, John Piper at Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and now that he's moved to his new facility, I want to go check it out. And I love Charlotte. It's a wonderful area. Lots going on there, and I really appreciate Breez, you bringing me on. It's so nice. We had a lot of mutual friends in common, and mutual gyms in common that we chatted about offline. So, but anyway, I will share with you, if you want to check me out on Instagram, it's BJJ Betty, and Roll Forever is the company, and in the bio is the link to the shop. And if you watch my stories, you'll see different athletes I'll post, or either in the Roll Forever, different athletes wearing Roll Forever gear. And we'll be having a couple of specials coming up. So stay tuned, and I'll be posting about them.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Betty. You take care. We'll connect soon. Have a good one.
Thank you, Breez. Bye-bye.